They have a sense of our life, a little bit in the future, what's going to be good for us, what's not going to be good for us. So this is their way of getting the family's ear. We get confused, we don't know what our purpose is, but they are aware and they course correct us. They gently, very lovingly put us on that path. So they mirror these things to us to tell us that, listen, this behavior or this thought process or this pattern of life is not, it is not going to bode well for you. So you need to work on it so that you can progress as a human being, you can become a better human being or just a healthier person.
This episode will literally blow your mind. If you have ever wished that you could communicate with your pets and understand exactly what they're thinking, well, on this episode, Preeti Garg will give you solid proof that it is absolutely possible. She is an interspecies communicator and psychic, and during our chat, we have discussed many such real life anecdotes and ways in which our pets communicate with us on an everyday basis. They even tap into our deepest secrets and mirror them back to us. I'm sure that by the end of this episode of Soul Safar with Bhaav, your outlook towards your pets will change forever. So Preeti, welcome to Soul Safar with Bhaav, and I can't tell you how happy I am that you're here today.
Thank you, Bhavesh. Thank you for having me, and believe me, the feeling is mutual.
And I have to tell you, because I tell everybody, it's Safar in Hindi, it's not the Safar of English.
Absolutely.
Since we are talking about journeys, why don't you tell me about your journey and what introduced you to the world of animal communication?
Well, my first dog, Ginger, who is also a lab, uh, she passed away some years back, and when she passed away, the last few months I wasn't with her, and so I kind of carried that guilt in me somewhere, and I needed closure. So it had been 8 years, I hadn't been able to bring in another dog into my life. And then a friend of mine, she told me, just called her and she told me, hey, I've done this course of animal communication and I was in the Maldives and I was talking to the fish in the sea. And that was like, whoa, for me, being actually able to talk, having a two-way conversation with an animal, that seemed like a dream for me, because I always felt that I was able to get along with animals and I understood animals much better than I did human beings. So I also decided to do this course and just kept all my logical brain aside, and I said, let me just experience it for what it is and see how it goes. And I think it changed my life completely. At the first hour into the course was like everything. I mean, my perspective on animals, their wisdom, their personalities, their character, everything just changed for me, and it felt like I'd come home.
What, according to you, today is animal communication?
So I'm going to correct that a little bit, because it's through this modality we are not just able to talk to animals, but we can talk to everything around us, every part of nature. What we call this is interspecies telepathic communication, and which means that so telepathy consists of two words, tele, which means distance, and pathy comes from pathos, which is emotions. which means that you can understand and read somebody's emotions, get a handle on what somebody's thinking or feeling without really talking to them, even from a distance. So, it's kind of, how do I put it? It's a non-verbal communication, and everything in this universe has a consciousness. All plants, animals, birds, bees, insects, landscapes, everything has a consciousness, and we can tap into their wisdom through this. We can have a two-way, we can ask our questions to them, we can talk to them, we can talk to our animals and say, hey, do you like this? Do you like the food you're eating? Do you like the bed you're sleeping on? And they actually have a take on it just like we do. They have the likes, dislikes, preferences, and they tell us what's on their mind, and that makes our life easier.
Right. So, okay, so what I'm understanding is when you say you're talking to the consciousness of the animal, you're, in other words, talking to their higher intelligence?
I would say you're talking to the soul.
You're talking to the soul.
So, you're talking to the soul, what form, what body it has, that is immaterial. Whether it's with body or without body is completely immaterial, because you're talking to the soul, and it's like having a conversation with you,
Right.
with your best friend, that you can say and ask anything, and you will get a very loving, compassionate answer, which comes from a place of complete non-judgment and acceptance.
To be very honest, the first time we heard about animal communication, my first reaction was, what rubbish, how can Dory talk to us? Like, how is that even possible? Like, if you say you can talk to a plant, somebody will be like, what, a plant can't talk to me? So how does this telepathic communication actually work? Like, how do you hear from them, or how do you communicate with them?
Thank you for asking that question, because socially, religiously, we are all told, and scientifically, we are all told that man is at the top of the rung. It's the top species, and everything around, everything lower, all animals, birds, everything, they are not at par with us. Biologically and physically, yes, we may have a more evolved physical body, but all animals, everything that has a consciousness is at the same level. That's been my experience. Human beings is the only species that gets disconnected from this ability. We are all born with it. It's as natural to us as breathing is. But let's say around the age of 2, we start disconnecting from it, because the child will tell his parent, hey, this dog is saying this to me, and the mother or the father will say, oh, my child has such a beautiful imagination. They don't really get that the child may actually be talking to it, and having a two-way conversation. So children, till the age of 2, till they are not they've not realized, or they're not susceptible to the judgment of the adult society, they retain that purity, that ability within them. So actually children are much wiser than us,
Right.
because they're able to channel this wisdom from all around us. Having said this, how do you receive it? It's like when you're dreaming, your eyes are closed, but you can see the visual absolutely clearly. So, it's the 5 senses that we have. There's an internal receiving, like you hear a voice in your head when you sense danger, say, hey, this is not right for us. In the same way, when we ask an animal a question, you get their answer in the form of a visual, or you may hear it, or it may just be a feeling. If you may feel what the animal is feeling in your body. So depending upon whether you're a visual person or a kinesthetic person, what is your dominant style of receiving?
Sorry, what is kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic is when you feel a skin,
Touch.
touch. when you feel it in your body. So if an animal is unwell, sometimes let's say they have a stomach ache, you may find a dense situation, dense energy in your body, or you may actually start feeling their anxiety in your body. So that's kinesthetic. So depending upon whatever is your dominant style of receiving, you will receive from animals and plants in the same way.
I remember when I was learning from you also, you had given us an exercise where we had to connect to a particular animal, and it was almost like I was feeling so drained out of, I was just like, I'm not interested in this. Why am I even doing this? And you said this is exactly what the animal is feeling in this very moment. So it's fascinating that you actually tap into their, not just their energies, but into their physical sensations, and you feel it in your body.
So that's true, it's a seamless receiving. Depending, as you become more and more open to it, and you start accepting what you're receiving, stop judging it or doubting it, the you will start receiving from all your senses. And the interesting part is the journey with the animals is very closely linked with your own journey. In your own life, you're trying to get deeper with your perception. You will find what you receive and how you receive from animals will also be similar.
Right.
When you start becoming more empathetic, you'll find that you can feel kinesthetically in your body sensations. So it starts becoming a seamless kind of communication.
So what you're actually saying is, no two communicators will receive the same way.
Absolutely.
Maybe I'll receive it visually, and you may receive it as a feeling in your body, and somebody else might just listen to it. So all of us are receiving differently from the same animal itself.
Yes, exactly. It's we are all different people, so we can't be receiving in the same way. Let's say if you have 3 friends and you are discussing something with them, one topic, you will talk differently with each person depending upon what is their interest in the subject, what is their depth of knowledge. Do you feel safe with them? Will they judge you for talking about it? It's the same with animals. They see us, they see every part of us. What we accept about ourselves, what we don't accept about ourselves, what are our belief systems, and they share with us what is easy for us to accept and how much ever we are willing to accept and run with.
Right.
So the universe gives us what we are ready to receive.
The friend who introduced me to you, she told me that her cat had run away, and that's how she had gotten in touch with you. And you communicated with the cat, and she actually gave you specifics that I will reach the house. This was her office, because she was the office cat. I will reach the office at 7 in the morning. Make sure that they lay the food out at so and so places, and I am fine. They just don't sleep, because it's an office and people were working in the night. They just don't sleep in the night and they irritate me, and that's why she had run away, because she had gotten irritated. And she had actually landed up at 7 in the morning outside, and she had eaten all of that food and she was fine. So it was that, and when she told me that, I was like, I want to talk to Preeti. Give me her number now. But tell me something, since we are talking about lost animals, do all lost animals want to come back home?
That's interesting. When you call something or somebody lost, the connotation is that they don't know their way back, right? They don't know what they're doing and they've gone away. That's not true for animals. When they leave home, it could be for several reasons. It could be that they're they just want to explore. It's an animal. It's not meant to be a pet, right? That's our need to have him or her as a pet. Animals have much better survival instincts than us. Their senses are way like at least 100 to 200 times sharper than ours, right? So sometimes they may just go to explore, like we want to go out and be with our friends or take a break. They may want to just go out, explore, be a cat, be a dog, do cat-like things, dog-like things. They may want to mate. They may like somebody outside. They may want to mate. Sometimes they also go away because they take on. They want to communicate a message to the family, and because we are so we feel we are the caregivers, and we are taking care of the dog or the cat, and ये इसको तो कुछ पता नहीं है, हम ही कर रहे हैं सब कुछ, so we are blocked, we are not open to receiving from them. So this is their way of finding somebody like you or me, a communicator who gets what they're saying and communicating that message to the family. It's a guidance because they see what's happening in the family, they see the energy, they see the relationships, they see the lifestyle, and they know, they have a sense of our life a little bit in the future, what's going to be good for us, what's not going to be good for us. So this is their way of getting the family's ear, and because the family loves them so much, they will do anything, as in anything, to get them back. And that's where they break down and they say, okay, if this is what it takes to get him or her back, I will do it. And that's progress, they're, that's spiritually they're on, they become better people, they let go of the baggage that they're carrying. So that is one of the main reasons why I see, in my experience, when animals go away and they are not coming back, they give you exact locations of where they are and they will not be found there. When that is happening, invariably the animal has a message or a guidance for the family, and at that point of time the animal will stay away because it loves the family so much. It wants them to make that change in their life or become aware of their own thoughts. It will stay away till it senses that shift in the family.
So when you change, they may decide to come back.
Yes, they do come back. They just walk in.
Yeah.
They just walk in. In fact, I'll give you an example. There was this lady, she came to me. Her 14-year-old dog, she was a indie. She walked away. She just walked out of the house one day, and this lady was, she was crying and she was absolutely shattered because this dog was the center of her existence. So when I spoke to the dog, I said, are you okay? Where are you? She said, I'm fine. But she depends, she's so connected to me and she's so emotionally tied to me. I'm practically her whole world. She doesn't need anybody apart from me, So she doesn't invest in relationships. So I'm 14, how long am I going to survive? And what is she going to do after me? So I told the lady this. I said, this is why she's gone away. And she says, you don't really invest in relationships. You don't have close friends. You don't have close family. And she broke down. She said, that's true. COVID happened. My parents passed away, and both my parents, one after the other. And after that, we've just become very tight. I've always been an introvert, and we've just become very, very tight. So 2-3 days, she cried a lot. I said, just work on the guidance, just even an awareness, even an effort. The dog knows that this is not going to change overnight, but a genuine effort in that direction will help you get her back. And sure enough, after 14 days, some lady called that lady up. She says, your dog is here. She was 5 kilometers away from the house, and this lady had searched high and low. When an animal doesn't want to be found, it will not be found. She just came back, and she was found, and after a month she passed away. And she prepared her human to deal with her loss.
I think one of the reasons why they also run away or go away is because they don't feel loved. They don't feel like they are important enough, or they feel unwanted.
Right. So animals stay with us when they have a bond. They come into our lives to support us.
Right.
They support us emotionally and psychologically. So how you would experience it is, you had a tough day at office, you enter your house, and the dog just comes and hugs you and licks you, and suddenly all is well with the world.
Yeah.
So they ground us and they center us, and they kind of, they also act as vacuums.
Yeah.
They take away our negative emotions onto themselves. It's called taking on, and that's how we feel more centered. So if an animal feels that it does not have a bond and it will not be able to fulfill the purpose that it has in the human's life, then they do go away. They are as aware of their own bodies and their needs as we are. So if they feel that their needs are not met and they're totally uncared for, then they do leave. That is part of the learning for them and standing up for themselves, and the human also, that they can't take things for granted. If they feel that the purpose is completed with the family.
I'm going to come to purpose. So you're saying they play a specific purpose. They come into our lives for a purpose.
Yes.
And what could that be?
So each animal's purpose is different. They guide us along our life's purpose. They are aware. Like we get confused. We don't know what our purpose is, you know. But they are aware and they course correct us. They gently, very lovingly put us on that path. So, for example, I'll give you my dog's example. I have a lab that I adopted, and he came from a home which the lady was not treated very well. So he was there to protect her and take on all the negativity from her life onto him. Bhavesh, you won't believe it, every 3-4 months he used to get tick fever. And I was stumped, you know, that a healthy dog got tick fever like every 3-4 months. It's a month-long course. I asked him, what's going on with you? Why do you get it? And he said, I'm taking on the negative energy. She's going through something in her life and I'm taking the negative energy on myself. And I immediately called her. It was 10 in the night. I called her. I said, you know, I just want you to validate that. I knew exactly when it had tick fever, that have these 3 timelines been like a difficult phase for you in, you know, have you been going through something? And she said, yes, I'm much better now, but I was going through. So I told her, I said, please talk to him. Just think of him in your head. And anybody can talk to animals. It's not a special ability. I said, just think of him in your head and tell him that you're fine, that you don't need him to do this, and allow him to move on with his life. And it was 3 years back that I did this. And till date, he's not had a single episode of tick fever.
Wow.
So that's how selfless they are, and that's the different kinds of purposes they feel. You know, whatever we need,
Yeah.
they will be there too. They'll just support us.
Yeah, I actually feel that that Dory did that for me, because I thought always that I was taking care of her after Ryan, but I think that she waited long enough to see that I was finding my feet, and she realized when it was time, and that it was almost like I thought she was my daughter, but she was mothering me, she was grounding me, she was just keeping me anchored. And I realized that, and I remember you had said that when I had communicated with her through you, that she said that she played her part, she fulfilled her life purpose with me. And I always thought that she was closer to Ryan, but she was in a way, but she was also my child. And I think her purpose was to make sure that, okay, now you're standing on your own feet, and I know you won't fall far enough. And she played her part, and that's how unconditional, you know, when I sometimes talk to animals, I realize how unconditional they are in their giving. In fact, I remember when I'd spoken to you after Dory, and I was feeling really guilty because I'd gotten her neutered before she passed. And then and then she didn't recover fast enough. And I said that I'm going through this guilt. Is it my fault that she has crossed over? And she said that, you know, the neutering was something that she needed to go through, but also this was an experience that she chose to go through because it gave me a reason for her to go. Otherwise, I would just wake up one morning and she wouldn't be there, and it would have been hell for me. So even in her going, her choice to go, she chose that experience. She tied it in with her own karmic experience that she had to go through. And she didn't. So while she was recovering from her neutering, she was in touch with another communicator was in touch with her, and she completely blocked her out. She didn't tell her, she didn't give her the information that she was going to go, because she was like, in case if these guys get to know that I am going, they will be devastated.
Yes.
And it's just amazing how even when they know that their life is going to end, they are capable of that sort of unconditional love, because as human beings we are just grappling at everything. We want to hold on, to dear life. I want to live more. It's not about you right now, it's about me. But it's amazing. Like every time I think about Dory in that regard, I'm just like,
You know, you said a very interesting thing about how much, even in the last moments, she was thinking about you. And that's the beauty of animals, you know. They're aware of their life plan. They're aware what is happening to their body, because they have they have a third person's objectivity towards it. So even in their suffering, they can maintain a completely balanced and peaceful mind. And they always come from a place of non-judgment and unconditional. Until the last breaths, they are playing that role. You know, they're trying to fulfill that purpose they have with you in supporting you. They accept death as the next step to life. It's not like for them the end. That's where the soul's journey takes a separate turn, a different turn. They're just letting go of this body and taking on the next, or continuing on their soul journey, depending upon what they choose to do or what their soul needs. So that's why animals they're able to do what they're able to do for us.
yeah. You know, after learning animal communication, I just look at animals completely differently. Like completely differently. They are wiser beyond our imagination. You know, I've also realized that animals tap into all of your doubts and fears, and even while
Absolutely.
you're speaking with them, they bring it up for you.
Yes.
It's not just about the communication about tum kahan ho, kya kha rahe ho, kya. It's they know the self work that you need to do, and they highlight that for you, and that's the beauty of every communication. Like I remember a friend of mine got in touch with me to talk to the dog in his apartment complex, who was a little troubled, and she spoke about herself only like it. I was writing. I generally write when I'm receiving, and I was writing the communication. It was 3 pages long, and she kept on talking. Usme se one paragraph she must have spoken about herself. The rest of the time she's spoken about me, and I'm like, this is not about me. This is about you. But clearly, I think she orchestrated the entire communication because she realized that I needed to hear something in that moment as well.
Absolutely, that's such a beautiful experience, because I have this firm belief that when animals choose which communicator they want to come to you. It's not a coincidence. So not just that we have a role in communicating what they're thinking, they come to us because they have a message for us.
Yeah.
And they say what is on the inside informs the outside. So when you attract a certain kind of animal, the messages that you receive, even if you're receiving it for the client, you know, or your friend, whoever's got the animal to you, you will realize they resonate with you,
Yeah.
because the vibe attracts the tribe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so whether it's the animal or the people in your life or the experiences in your life, the universe sends us what we need to heal. It shows us a mirror, and animals play a very beautiful part in that. They mirror our energies. They show us the mirror, saying, "This is how you're behaving. How does it look like to you when you see me behaving like this?"
Right.
It does feel a little weird or dumb, right? You laugh at me. That's exactly how you are when you are behaving this way. So they mirror these things to us to tell us that, listen, this behavior or this thought process or this pattern of life is not, it is not going to bode well for you. So you need to work on it so that you can progress as a human being, you can become a better human being, or just a healthier person.
What is this mirroring behavior that our animals do with us?
So explaining it simply, a mirror is something that shows you the fact, the truth. Okay, you can't fool a mirror; it will show you exactly who you are. So mirroring is an exercise, is a behavior in which the animal behaves. They kind of enact the energy in the house or the behavior of a person in the house. Let's say somebody has issues with their knees, and you'll find the dog also starts developing a issue with their knee, you know, or they not be able to walk properly or has trouble getting up. And when you talk to the dog and say, yes, I'm mirroring the health issue of this person.
Right.
So, they basically highlight to us aspects about our life that need to be addressed.
Right. So this reminds me, remember I told you about this communication I did with my friend about the building dog.
Yes.
So the dog, she had said something like, you know, there are people in that society that are holding a lot of grudges against each other, and that's why she had started barking randomly
Yes.
at people. That was not her behavior. So when I told my friend this, he told me that he told me about a specific instance. He said that I had gotten down from my car, and there is a friend of mine who there is a person who used to be my friend, lives in the in another wing of the apartment complex, and he was standing in the balcony. I looked at him, and in my heart I felt like I wanted to go and slap him. And he said this dog was just sleeping there, and I went towards her just to pet her, and immediately she has gotten up, started running away from me and barking at me. So now that you're telling me this, it seems like in that very moment, in real time, the dog mirrored his
Yes.
grudges against that other person and has shown him what it looks like in reality. Like
Yes.
this is how that grudge looks like.
As soon as we think something, an animal will sense it. So there's a gentleman called Rupert Sheldrake. He did this experiment where he filmed a dog and the master, the man who the dog used to belong to, and to figure out when did the dog really understand that the man was coming home. And they had two separate cameras, they were filming with the timer, and they realized that, you know, the moment this man used to say ki, हाँ, okay, it's time for me to go home, or think it in his head, or get up from his chair if he was with a friend, and they used to say, okay, let's pay the check and let's go. That's exactly when the dog used to get up from where it's sitting, and it used to go and stand near the door. So he's shown that animals are telepathic, you know, it's like scientific proof, and they get our emotions in real time, you know. The moment you've thought something, even at a subconscious level, the animal will know it.
Right.
And they will, if it's something that we need to kind of work on, they will mirror it to you.
So it's with regards to the concept of mirroring, it almost sounds like the concept of energy follows thought.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
So in a way, yes, it's like an application of energy follows thought. So I'll just quickly explain what energy follows thought is. Essentially, everything that we think, whether it is gratitude, it is love, it's acceptance, or feeling अरे मेरे life में तो कुछ ठीक से नहीं होता है, or feeling guilt or shame for the smallest of things that we go through. Every emotion has a frequency, has a vibration attached to it, and that is the energy. So there's an energy for every emotion, and people around us, including animals, they catch on to that energy and then they mirror it back to us, say, hey, you know, you're behaving in this way and this doesn't, it's not going to go very well for you. So many of us feel blocked, or we feel that, you know, I don't get enough, or I don't get what I deserve, you know, and they blame the outside environment for those obstacles.
Right.
But actually what is happening is there's some belief in our heads which enters saying, I always have to struggle for what I get, or, you know, I never get things easily.
Right.
And that becomes like a belief system in our head. And then, because that's the thought in our head which plays every time, that's the energy we're sending out, that's a signal we're sending out to the universe, and we end up manifesting that in our lives. We only end up manifesting situations where things are difficult, we have to work harder, we have to overcome things. So that's why they say the positive thinking is so important. What you think is what you manifest. Energy follows thought. And you know, interestingly, there's this Japanese scientist, Masaru Emoto, who's done this beautiful experiment on how our thoughts and our emotions impact water, molecules of water. You know, so he kept these beakers of water, I mean water in different beakers, and you know, to one beaker he would express gratitude or love, or you know, he would pray on that, to that beaker, you know, near that beaker, and to another it would just kind of project negative emotions like hate or guilt or shame. And he studied the molecules of the water of or each of these beakers under a microscope, and he has documented this, and how the molecules become different with, you know, of each beaker, with a different emotion associated with it, how different they are. You know, the ones with peace and enlightenment and love are beautifully complex, you know, like ice crystals, and they're very pretty, and the ones which have hate and the negative emotions projected onto them are scattered, and you know, they're all over the place and they look very dirty, that kind of a thing. So if you look at that, our earth's constitutes of 70% of earth is water, 70% of our bodies is water. So extrapolate this and you can figure out that what our own thoughts are, how they impact our lives, our bodies. You can we end up manifesting illnesses in our body because of the way we think.
So animals can also mirror our illnesses?
Oh yes,
They can.
they do, and they not just mirror our illnesses. So there have been cases where this dog passed away, and in passing away, it had a
Taken.
cardiac arrest because it took on that energy from the family, one of the family members, and they've done so much for me, and in my passing away, this is the last thing I can do for them.
It's amazing you're saying this. I'm going to go back to Dory because her heart gave way, and while you said this, it's almost like in my head, it feels like she took my heartbreak away after I am. And you know, it's amazing. I'm saying amazing, but the next day after she had passed, there was only one sentence stuck in my head, like it was a message from her, and I was feeling guilty that I was even listening to it, but I couldn't help it. It was stuck, and I knew this is Dory's message to me. She said, "I have set you free."
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was stuck in my head. People are coming to pay their respects to me the next day about Dory, and I'm just like, guys, I don't know why I'm thinking of this. It's my daughter has passed, and all I'm thinking of is the only thought stuck in my head is I have set you free. And I was feeling guilty, but there was nothing I could do about it. And today, looking back, I know what she meant. But when you say that, you know, like when you spoke about cardiac arrest, the one thing connected to was Dory's heart gave way, and it was almost like she took my heartbreak away, and she's just like, you don't need this anymore.
Yes.
So it was that. So we feel we are helping animals, but they are rescuing us all the time. They are rescuing us, and that I am going to take this opportunity because there's again a huge thing about rescued animals. I'd like you to talk about a bit about you know, rescue animal cases.
Right. So animals who we kind of who come to us in a time of need and for health issues or because they have been a part of abuse, it's a karmic connection sometimes. You know, there's a give and take involved. हिंदी में कहावत है, जो लेने वाला होता है वो actually देने वाला सब बड़ा होता है. The person who receives is bigger than the person who gives, because जब आप दे रहे हो तो आप ले रहे हो, आपको वो validation मिल रहा है, आपको satisfaction मिल रहा है. So in allowing us to take care of them, they actually help us heal. They could come to balance the energy in a particular place, you know, like bring compassion, bring kindness, or just bring to the fore certain things in the society which need to be changed or addressed.
Right.
So, and these rescue animals have a certain wisdom, you know, because they've been in that vulnerable state. They've chosen that life because there may be a certain karmic balancing that needs to happen. For them, maybe freedom is more important than this.
So, you know, rescuing also brings me to consent. You sometimes the animal may not want to be
Yes.
rescued.
Yes.
Do not because as human beings we always have this ego and superiority. We want to feel like I've been there for you. Even for the animal, I've rescued them. But maybe consent is so important.
That's true, because we feel we know best.
Yeah.
And we can take decisions for everything that is around us. So when we see an animal and we want to rescue it and take it in, or get it adopted, or get it fostered, maybe he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
You know, he just wants to be where there is, or his needs or her needs could be very different. There is free will,
Yeah.
right? So you have to ask the animal, is it okay? Can I help you? Or best, how can I help you? Don't assume that the animal wants help.
So, like, again, I'm going back to my friend's communication because he had told me that this dog is really dirty. Can I just take her to a spa and get her cleaned? And I remember she specifically said, I do not want to be cleaned. Leave me be. And she said that this is how I want to project myself at this point of time. And she said, when it is time and I want to be cleaned, I will find a way to let you know. So it's so important. The consent, like how it is important for human beings, it's also important for animals.
That's
Like,
true.
for example, I think personally, and please tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, if you already have a pet and you're getting another pet in, it's important to ask your pet that is it
Yes.
okay with you?
Do they want
Do
another?
you want a companion?
Yeah.
Or, you know, again, I'm going to go back to Dory. Like, if I had known about this before getting her neutered, I would have asked her consent that are you okay to be neutered, because you're taking a life decision
About the bodies, because neutering again is our need, because space is limited. The population of dogs is growing, the population of humans is growing, so there's conflict.
Right.
So we've decided कि इस conflict को solve करने के लिए इनको neuter कर दो. You can take the same decision about yourself also, right?
Right.
कि हमें neuter कर देते हैं.
Correct.
Conflict कम हो जाएगी, एक का population कम हो जाएगा, but we decide for others.
Yeah.
So, but for them, their reproductive organs are as important and as natural as hearts or lungs. They
Correct.
don't judge it as not needed and ye wo.
Correct.
So, very often animals run away also, you know, especially streeties, when rescuers or NGO staff wants to neuter them. They run away because they don't want to be neutered. It's their life purpose to be a mother, experience motherhood, or bring children into the world. So please get their permission. And sometimes there are situations where you may have to do this. Explain it to them. Talk to your animals and say, this is what I'm planning to do. This is my reason. I'm really sorry for it. But I hope you're okay with it. And they do get you. Because they understand, they understand that yes, where you're coming from.
So you don't need to be a communicator. You just sit with your pet and talk to them like you would talk to somebody else. You don't need a communicator to say anything to
You
them.
need a communicator to understand what the animal is saying, but you don't need to a communicator to communicate to your animal.
Consent brings me to a very, very sensitive topic. When you want to put your animal down, you must ask them for consent. What's your take on that? Because that is again a life decision that you're taking for your pet.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is it's like holding your heart, and of course for us also when you take that decision. But what do you feel about consent there and that situation?
I think it's not a matter of consent. It's a matter of asking what the animal wants.
Right.
Do they feel the need to, do they want the help of external help and passing away, or will they transition on their own? And the animal will tell you clearly, because they understand what is happening to their bodies. They have a sense that it's time for them to go. And very often the last few days is like a day, that illness that you see is karmic balancing for the animals. So for them, it's very important to have that karmic balancing, and they're okay with that because they understand the larger purpose of it. They're not stuck in that pain. Actually, sometimes when I've connected with animals who are in their last few days, you find so much peace and tranquility and groundedness in them, and they can come from a place of so much compassion and understanding for their human family in spite of being in that place. You know, it's amazing, it's humbling, and it's overwhelming, you know, to see how much how beautifully grounded they are. So they understand what's going on with them, and a lot of times they request that, you know, if you can still hold space for me, I like to transition by myself.
Right.
But sometimes they do, they're okay with it. It completely depends from animal to animal, and please do check with the animal before you take that decision.
Right. So after
I'd like to interject here.
sure.
So there was this dog who'd passed away, and the family had done a shabad, you know, in Sikhs. Like there's a part, like, you know, Hindus do a reading of a scripture. They read from the Guru Granth Sahib. It's called a shabad. So they had done that for the dog in the house, and the next day the dog passed away. So they were feeling very guilty about it, you know, that did we kind of help. So when I talked to the animal, it actually said, who do you think put the idea of doing that? So he'd actually been with the family. He said, I've been to Gurdwaras with the family. They've taken me everywhere they've gone, and I wanted to hear that before I went, you know. So it was like it helped him move on. So that's how beautiful they are.
Yeah. After Dory passed and I reached out to you, I wanted to know, will she come back to me? Will she come back to me? There was also a question that I remember asking you is, for how long can I communicate with her after she has passed?
Yes.
So for how long can you communicate with your child after they've gone?
That's a very good question to ask. So for animals, you can talk to them at any point. You know, you don't have to wait you don't have to wait a certain number of days to talk to them before you can talk to them. You can talk to them immediately, because they sense that they're passing away, and they're very aware of that, and their acceptance of moving on is very high usually. So you can talk to them at any point of time, and you can continue talking to the animal for as long as you want. Like, the soul decides. The journey of an animal soul and a human soul, in my experience, is identical.
But what if they've reincarnated?
Even if they've reincarnated, so it's a soul's decision whether it wants to take on another body or wants to continue. And even when they've reincarnated, they are able to connect to us and provide us guidance. So in fact, the interesting part is, when you're talking to an animal which has transitioned, and they show you, you ask them about their life, and they show you something, always check with them, are you showing me about your current life, or are you showing me the life with your family, the human family that who's talking to us? So they could be showing you about their current life, how they are, where they are, which form and body, and sometimes they do come back. And they'll tell you exactly when they'll come back, you know, how days, how many years, what form they'll come back in. But sometimes they do, they're okay, they don't want to come back, they don't want to take on another body, or they've not decided that they want to take on another body yet, because they want to remain in the soul realm. But at any point of time, you can talk to your animal, and they're happy. You don't. A lot of people ask me, are they going to be bothered by it? You know, because I'm crying, I want to reach out. Will it bother them? Will it hinder their soul journey? Nothing of the sort. They understand that we need their help, and they're still connected to us. So they know before I have connected to them, that you are thinking of talking to them and getting guidance, and they're very happy to help us.
Talking about animals that are still alive, coming back to them, do they need to be still? Do they need to be in the same room when I'm talking to them? Do they know that you're talking to them? How does that work?
Yeah, they know you're going to talk to them, because they can read your mind. They're always connected to us.
Right.
And they don't need to be in the same room, because like I said, telepathy is about talking non-verbally, and you just have to focus your energy towards that animal. So If you know the animal, you can just think of them and you can talk to them. And the
But they have
energy,
to be sleeping, they can be running around, they
they
can be doing anything.
anything. You're talking to the soul.
Right.
The body, what the body is doing doesn't matter. Don't expect your dog to look you in the eye when you're talking to them, you know. They could be licking themselves, they could be scratching their ear, doing something funny, but they'll be aware of what you're asking, and they will respond with full awareness, presence and wisdom to you.
Right.
It's we who expect this, and then we feel very worried, but she was not looking at me or he was not looking at me. Whenever I ask him, he gets up and goes into another room.
Yeah, yeah.
That doesn't mean that the dog is rejecting you or the animal is rejecting you. It just means he's just doing his own thing, but he's connected to you, so he'll tell you
Right.
whatever you're asking for.
Right. So, if I want to know about specifics from my animal, what kind of specific information can I get from them? Like, have you had any such cases where you've asked specific questions and you?
Yes, so a lot of people who come to me will want to know, does my animal like the food it's eating, or they come to me and say they're not eating anything. So what does that person, what does he want to eat, he or she want to eat? And I've had answers like this one cat said, I want to eat biryani. And biryani may be mutton biryani, not chicken biryani, mind
Wow.
you. He doesn't like chicken, mutton.
Huh.
So he says, I don't mind minced chicken if you give it to me, but no chicken biryani.
What?
Yeah. And he said, I said, it's got masala in it, you know, that's not good for a cat. It was a cat. She says, yeah, I like masaledar food. I mean, then one dog told me, I want burgers and milkshake. I almost fell off my chair.
Who gives burgers to a dog?
It wanted it. Maybe the smell, the family must have eaten it, given it a bite, or just the aroma of the food. I want burgers. So their awareness is like mind-boggling. They get everything.
So, this applies to anything that has consciousness, to plants. This communication, like I can talk to the hill if I'm walking around.
It's very interesting. You know, some people will say I'm a mountain person. Some people say I'm a beach person. That means the landscape calls to you. There's some healing that you need from that landscape. You know, when you're talking to a water, you're a water person. Maybe you need that fluidity, that flexibility. You know, water just cleanses. Hill will provide you solidity, stability. So there's something you need to receive from that landscape. That's why it calls you. And everything you can talk to this conch shell, and you can ask it for guidance on anything.
Really?
Everything is connected to that one. You know, कहते हैं ना अंश में भगवान होता है. This is what it really means. Everything is connected to that divine higher power. Human beings, because of a fear, anxiety, our logical brains, science, we look for evidence for everything. We are the ones who build blocks.
Right.
But everything else, that is why you cut a tree, it will still stand there and give you shade. It doesn't turn around and slap you, right? Because it knows what you're doing, and it's an acceptance. It will feel that pain. It will feel those emotions, and they take on so much from the environment. They do so much to balance us.
Right.
But everything has the same consciousness, and that's the beauty. That's what we mean by the oneness of life. That we are all actually interconnected. We all draw from the same divine source. We all have that wisdom, and you're not alone. You know, for me, the biggest thing is I'm not alone. If I need guidance, if I don't have another human being, it's okay. I can turn to my dog, ask them. I can turn to the potted plant in my house. You know, very often some plant will not be doing well in the house. You know, so others are thriving, but one is not. It's mirroring. It's taking on some energy from you, or it's mirroring some part of you which is unhealed or which needs self-worth. So you can draw that guidance from anywhere and everywhere, as long as you open yourself to receiving it and you give it the respect and the humility with which to receive.
Right. So if on a parting note, if you have to tell our viewers who have pets at home, if they want to become a little more aware and make their relationship with them slightly better, what are let's say what are the two things you tell them?
Listen to your animals. And how do you listen to your animals? Keep your assumptions aside and just look at them and ask them, what do you want to tell me? Help me receive in the easiest way, in the way of least resistance that I can. And they will tell you, you will get a sense of what they want. Don't treat them as lower beings or somebody you are treat them as equals.
Right.
And give them the respect and the honor that you would to a equal, and you will see a shift in their behavior towards you.
Right.
So I would say these two things.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing, and I have to share this with our audience that the idea of this podcast was literally dropped into my head. I remember we had done a 2-weekend course where you were teaching me animal communication. And after the first session, I was sitting in the evening having my coffee. And out of nowhere, the idea of this podcast was dropped into my head on my lap that you need to do this. And I was just like, I remember the next day when I came on for the next class, the first thing I told you is, Preeti, something happened last night. I have this idea and I'm extremely excited by it and I have to do it, and will you be okay to come on board? And that time I remember we were doing this on Zoom and you were like, because it was just like, jab hoga dekh lenge. And today here you are sitting on this seat with me. It has literally happened. It has manifested.
Yeah.
It's come for a reason. And I can't tell you how happy I am that you opened that channel for me to receive. And this is clearly the thing of energy following thought or intention. It's manifested in reality, and if this is not a validation for people, I don't know what will be. So thank you so much, Preeti, for helping me. You still handhold me through my communications, but thank you so much for coming on Soul Safar, and thank you so much for being a part of my journey. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for choosing me as somebody who would guide you in this world. And believe me, it's what you manifested. Like I said, it was your thought which manifested that energy, and I was just somewhere I just helped, like we all help each other.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
Any creator needs your support and love to grow and reach a larger audience. And that is why I would request you to like, share, subscribe and comment on the video below, because you never know who is going to benefit from this content. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notified every time we drop a new video. We also upload our podcast on Spotify so you can hear them at home in your own time as smaller chapters.